So as I do a lot of strategy calls with painters, what I find out, we always go through the 7 centers of attention. And if you don't know what that is, this is what it is right here. It's called the 7 centers of attention. I always bring this up to the painters that I chat with through strategy calls. And a lot of the time, money gets brought up. Money is a big part of business in painting. And a lot of people struggle with painting or with cash flow. And so on this show, I've got Kyle Stroshein. And Kyle Stroshein is going to talk about the 6 tips to ensure your business has cash left every month. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul.
How are things?
Really well. Thanks for having me.
Good.
Finally, spring is around the corner here.
Yeah, it feels like that, eh? So cash flow, you're a bookkeeper and you own One Time Bookkeeping, and you help a lot of contractors with their cash flow. So in this short video, if you can show the viewers your 6 tips on how we can help maintain and hold more cash at the end of every month. Let's hear it.
Yeah, as we were discussing, cash is king. And these are 6 tips I have that can ensure your business has money left at the end of the month. As a bookkeeper, a lot of my clients come to me with their books out of order, things are a mess, and they are taught first and foremost that profit is what they have left at the end of the month. As accountants, this is the number that they've been taught is important to look for. That's the scorecard. But then they look in their bank and there is no cash. So what I want to talk about today is focusing on cash. And one of the most important tips, these are the 6 tips that Paul has put on the board. Number 1, pay yourself first.
What do you mean by that? Pay yourself first. Like, I got employees, I got material to pay, I got gas to pay. How can I pay myself first?
It's hard. I get it. We're taught this idea from every guru out there. Pay yourself first. And it's kind of cliche. You know, it's easy to, it's one of those things that's easy to say, but hard to actually do. It's like, how do I do it? And I think how is a paradigm shift. And this idea is not my idea. This was developed by a man named Mike Michalowicz in his book, Profit First. He has this really knock your head against the wall, simple, easy concept where traditionally accountants and bookkeepers and everybody said that your sales minus your expenses is equal to profit. So what that means is, like you said, pay your employees, pay your gas, and whatever's left over is mine to keep as the business owner. Well, what if we change that paradigm to say sales minus profit is then equal to expenses? And what I mean by that is if you sell a job, you complete the job, you set aside 2%, just start with 2%. The goal is 10%. But if you could just start putting away 2% from every job sold, I think you'll have, at the end of the month, at least a little bit of money. And then as over 90 days, you've got this account that is built up, you can pay yourself what's called a dividend. Probably never paid. A lot of my contractors don't ever even know what that is. So the way the system works is simple. In the book, he tells us how to do this and how to accomplish it. I'm not going to go into depth on that right now, but it's very simple. He says, set up 4 accounts. Go to your bank that you deal with. You've got your main operating account where everything goes into now. Set up one for profit, a savings account. Set up another account for the tax man. And that was one of my other tips, was pay the tax man. He says, set up an account for your owner's compensation. So that's 4 accounts. And what he says in the book is on the 10th and the 25th of every month, you physically move the cash from that operating account into those other 3 accounts.
So it's just a matter of making a habit of doing that then.
It's totally a habit. Yeah.
Can we get AI to automate that for us or what?
I don't have that solution today, but I just set this up for my wife's business. She's been an entrepreneur here and she keeps asking me to do her bookkeeping. And I was like, why don't you just do it this way? Just on the 10th and the 25th of each month, set aside money for taxes. I went and set them up at the Royal Bank. It was simple. Took 10-minute meeting with the banker. She set up the savings accounts for free, and you get 2 free transactions a month. So now at the 10th and 25th, she just has to move some money over into profit and some into taxes, and the rest is spent on expenses. And that's okay. That's what it's there for.
Okay, well, that's tip number one, I guess. Pay yourself first and look at it that way. What's your tip number two?
So tip number two is knowing your numbers. Although the profit first system works well and it's relatively simple, you still need to know your numbers. What I mean by that is to create a financial forecast and a budget. So at the start of the year, what I'd recommend is doing a projection on how much income you want to make this year, right?
Okay.
So as a painting contractor, let's say you want to make $100,000 in revenue. You want to do $100,000 in jobs this year. Industry benchmarks say you'll make 20% take home. So that's $20,000. And then work backwards as to how much your expenses will cost. So there are benchmarks. There's industry benchmarks you can find. That's kind of something that we specialize in. We know painting. We know out of 100 clients, exactly how many clients hit those KPIs or like what are your typical gas expenses are 5%. Typical marketing expenses are 3 to 10%. Typical employee expenses are about 30 to 50%. So once you start with what you want to earn, we can work backwards. So you know what the numbers are. And then you can measure your actuals to those budget every month. And you know the percentages to set aside into those buckets of what to pay tax and what to pay profit and what to pay owners.
So knowing your numbers, is that like literally looking at a spreadsheet? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's definitely what we specialize in. If that scares you, just even writing it down on a piece of paper, 12 months from now, income here, costs of goods sold is the term we use in bookkeeping. Overhead, direct and indirect are the two expenses that I'm talking about.
Because I think that's one of the hard things for most painters is to actually know your numbers at all time. Really, most of the time, I just know what's in my bank and I know what I'm paying for expenses. So, I guess having regular spreadsheets that I can jump onto and take a look at, like, from a macro point of view, what's my gross profit margin? What's my expenses? How much commissions are coming out? What's my gross, everything? What's my net, my profit, everything, right? I think that would be helpful. So that's what you mean by knowing your numbers. Because I guess if you know your numbers, then you obviously know when things are going to get tight, right?
Yeah, cash in the bank is a good number, but a forecast just allows you to grow. So someone that just has cash in the bank, to me, is saying they don't really want their business to grow. They're just hoping on a dream, and it's, hopefully that bank account's going to grow. Whereas a forecast, you can plan ahead and see those bumps in the road and where you have to improve.
Okay, cool. And so knowing your numbers, first one was paying yourself first. Second one was knowing your numbers. I don't really like this third one that you're going to go to here, but I guess you got to pay it. So tell us more. Tell us why paying the tax man is actually going to help.
Cash. Well, if you don't pay it, they're going to take it from you. So they're going to get it one way or the other. So you may as well pay the piper and plan for it. That's kind of covered in what I just said above about setting aside some money for the tax man. But how much to set aside is important because we don't want to overpay the tax man. If then that becomes a savings account for him and your money's not working for you. So you want to only pay him what it's due.
So is that something that you as a bookkeeper would do as well? Is that, generally speaking, you'd let me know, hey, Paul, you're going to be ending up owing this much. You better start putting away X amount kind of thing?
Absolutely. That's part of the tax planning process that we provide to our clients. Peace of mind in terms of the tax man, right? This is how much you're going to spend this year based on our budget and our forecasted plan. So let's set it aside ahead of time.
Got it.
But the discipline is actually putting the money in there.
Yes.
But you're right. A lot of entrepreneurs just don't even know what they owe, or more importantly, how to pay it.
Yeah. And then there's tax, and then it accrues interest. And then, I've had some people that actually, they get their assets taken. So their ladders and their livelihood, their van, their sprayers, it's taken. And then now you can't even work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and the government doesn't make it easy. There's so many forms to fill out, and it's a steep learning curve to understand when and what to do, what to
Mhm.
file, when to file. Um, CRA does make it easy with online banking integrations and online business accounts, but it's still a steep learning curve.
So you say CRA is in Canadian Revenue Agency, and for Americans, it's the
Yes.
IRS.
Yeah. So I'm Canadian, and most of the things I deal with are Canadian tax laws and tax planning, but it's similar in the US.
And you can still service U.S. clients, right?
I can still service US client. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think, let's get rid of that one. We all understand we got to pay the tax man. He's going to come get it regardless.
Yeah.
This next one I think is critical. When I talk to a lot of painters through strategy calls,
Yeah.
I noticed, and I just made a video today, and I said 99% of life is showing up and 1% is finishing. And we've been taught that 97% is an A. So heck, why do
Mm.
you need to do more? Explain number 4 here that you got as a tip for how you can leave cash at the end of at the end of every month. Explain
Yeah.
this tip number 4. What do you mean by this?
Yeah. Number 4 and number 6 are really kind of go together, but at the outset of the job, communicate to your customer. After the job is completed, we are going to collect. It's like you don't leave McDonald's owing for your cheeseburger. You're paying for it up front. So part of the process is just having that set up with the communicated to the client beforehand. Having the language in your agreements is a big one I see.
Mm-hmm.
Is just that money is due upon completion.
But that there's more than just saying money is due upon completion. Like, you got to present the invoice, you got to prepare the
Yes.
invoice, you got to deliver the invoice, and you got to say, here's how you pay. If you don't say here's how you pay, again, if you walked into McDonald's and they said, okay, that'll be $24.95,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be like, sure, whatever, but they actually give you the ATM card machine. They give you the stuff. They've got the cash
Yeah.
register right there, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a big part of it.
Have Square on your phone.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Download the Square app. It's very free. It's easy. They make it simple. So that's an option. But you're right. Having a process in place for a walk around with the client,
Yeah.
the final walkthrough in your initial presentation, tell the client that at the end of the job, I'm going to do a walk around with you. I want you to know that we do expect payment at that meeting. How are you going to pay? Asking, what is your preferred payment method? So they know that they'll have a check or bank draft or
Yes.
nickels ready for you, right?
So I guess you got to first ask for the deposit, and that sets the tone for the relationship. And if you do that right, well, then basically asking for an invoice should be the same process. And since they've already paid a deposit, and I guess if it's a big enough job and you're asking for a progress payment, then you're actually setting the tone, but you still got to ask for the money, and you still got to give them a way to pay, right?
Yeah. No, this one's huge for cash flow. It helps a ton, allowing you to use that money as leverage to go buy materials.
Absolutely.
But a lot of contractors.
One of the tips I use is, we don't secure your spot until the money is paid. Yeah, we can book your spot in, 2 weeks from now on a specific date, but we can't do it until that money is deposited into the bank account. And here's how you can do that, right? Kind of sets a fear of missing out, urgency. And again, most people in general need to be told what to do. Again, when you use Chat GPT, you got to tell it what to do, right? So you got to prompt it. So you got to prompt your customer too. And I think that's where a lot of painters fail. And then next thing you know, they got a lot of payables or receivables, I should say, and they got no cash. So awesome tips. Those two kind of collect. What's the last one there?
Just quickly on the deposit, Paul, in your business, what percentage do you ask for? Because this is one I find contractors are a bit scared, that they don't want to, the amount they ask for on the deposit, 50% too much, or what do you recommend there?
Yeah, well, it all depends on the job personally. Like, generally speaking, I ask anywhere from 10 to 15%. That's generally what I ask for bigger jobs. For smaller jobs, also for clients that I know or I've done business with before, I don't even bother. But generally speaking, it's 10 to 15%. Some people do as high as 25. I've tried that in my past, and there's some objections and some resistance, but most of the time, 10 or 15%, it qualifies because it kind of pays for the materials. In
Yeah.
general, 10% has always been the material cost of a
Right.
job. Generally speaking, they've raised the prices, but overall, 10 or 15%, and people generally pay it, right? And they're happy to pay it. So that's kind of what I do. If it's anything like under $1,000 or $2,000, I just go do the job. I know where they live, so I'm going to
Yeah.
come collect, right?
Yeah. Good. So yeah, the last tip there was cut your expenses. So this is going in line with knowing your numbers. So if you've got that forecast set out at the start of the year, you measure against it monthly what actually happened versus the budget.
Yeah.
Now you can get ruthless on trimming stuff. Are you spending $3,000 a month on subscriptions, right? Or gas.
Or lunches. Like, I'm surprised how many, like, I see it all the time, and as I know, I'm out the door early in the morning and I got to go to work. Well, I don't always have time to make a smoothie or to take a lunch. And so, $7 for breakfast and $14 for lunch. And then, it can add up after time.
Yeah.
So these little expenses, cut your expenses. Also, like paint costs. Sometimes I'll buy a product and the rep didn't really trim down the price, so it's a real high price, and I'm like, oh, I'll get it next time, but I never do. So there's a lot of ways you can cut down your expenses, I think.
Yeah, like just looking at that every month and knowing that the profit, look at the bookkeeper's reports, and just have a look at it. Spend, like, at the end of the month, if you've got a bookkeeper that provides you a report, look at the report, look at the expenses, and see if there's anything out of line compared to last month, right? Because those do build up over time and you get hit with a big expense. And just be ruthless about it. Carve that time aside and look at your financial statements. And
I think it's more about having discipline. Like, these are great tips. The first one was pay yourself first.
Yeah.
The second one was know your numbers. The third one is pay the tax, man. No, but you got to pay the tax, man. I'd say the fourth one is collect a deposit. That sets the tone.
Yep.
The fifth one is cut your expenses. And the last one is learn how to collect after the jobs. Those are 6 great tips that we can use to help with cash flow in your painting company. Kyle, tell us a little bit more about One Time Bookkeeping, where you're from, and basically how you help painting contractors and where they can contact you.
Yeah, I mean, the One Time Bookkeeping, we're located in Victoria, BC. We got a great staff, a great team that can just provide you peace of mind is what I sell, starting from the tax planning and strategy, organizing your financial statements so they make sense to you. They're going to be reported to you. No bills are going to be, we pay your bills, we do your payroll, we do compliance to the government, so filing all those forms. And then on the higher level stuff, I can be more of a CFO or chief financial officer, where I'm setting a budget and a forecast for the year and measuring against that monthly, so you get to know your numbers.
Sorry, and I was on mute. Where can people find you, Kyle? Like the website?
Yeah, onetimebookkeeping.ca.
All right. Well, thanks for letting us know about that. I'll put that actually in the little scroller here. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind here. OneTimeBooking.ca. That's where people can find you. Well, while you were chatting there, I went to our newfound friend, ChatGPT, and I asked them if cash was king. And so this is kind of basically what they showed me here. They said the phrase cash is king is often used to describe the value of cash on hand. As it goes down, it gets a little bit more negative. It says, that being said, cash still has its advantages. But overall, while the phrase cash is king may no longer entirely be accurate in the modern era of digital cash payments, cash is still a valuable tool to have on hand in many situations. I love cash. I think cash is king. I want to thank you for being on the show, at least helping us know these 6 tips that we can help save our cash and have more cash at the end of the month. So if you're watching this right now, you're not on Trusted House Painter, go log into Trusted House Painter, create a free painter account. Trusted House Painter helps you, basically one-stop shop, total solution for your painting business. We help brand your business and make you thrive. Kyle, thanks for coming on the show again, and I hope to have you on again. You can teach us a little bit more about bookkeeping bookkeeping. And if you're watching the show, you're a painter and you're just tired of doing your bookkeeping, give Kyle a call. Go to onetimebooking.ca, onetimebookkeeping.ca. Have a chat with Kyle. He can set you up and show you how it's going. So thanks again, Kyle. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Paul.
All right. Take care, man.